Welcome back to In Light of the Gospel, episode 19. I've been looking forward to this episode for quite a while. I'm going to be interviewing a friend of mine who's been with me ever since I became a Christian. And if you've heard me preach sermons, very likely you've heard me mention his name. Because the day that I understood the gospel, I was sitting next to John Dyke. He was a truck driver. I was a truck driver helper, meaning I was a passenger. I drove along with him to help unload windows back in the North Star days. And the gospel started opening up to me, and John was there the whole time. So him and I had our, we butt heads over many different things, but he learned to kind of stand up to me and show me the truth. And eventually it sunk in through his influence and through some sermons that I listened to at the time with him. I was able to understand what Christ had done for me. So I give a lot of credit to him. I honor him. I respect him. And I think his story is very interesting. He came from a old colony home. His dad was an old colony preacher, so that puts a bit of pressure on a young man. And he's been through a lot. He's lost two young children when they were just babies, so those things really shaped him. And since then, he also, after leaving the old colony, has been very instrumental in starting the church at Springfield. It was him and several others that started it, and we joined a few years after. And it's been a real joy and a blessing to be a part of as a fellow minister of John's, and also just as a friend. I appreciate him, and I hope that you appreciate this story. I thank you very much for tuning in and for sharing these messages with your friends. And if you could, if you know John, you want to make a comment below about some interaction you've had with him. Maybe you've been blessed by him as well. And commenting on these videos helps the algorithm so that they get more views. So it's enjoyable for me to see more and more people hearing the stories of people's lives that have brought them to the point of conversion through Christ. And so if you can share them, that's helpful to me. And I appreciate, again, you tuning in. God bless you. Well, Lynn, I think we can just start it off with take us way back. What was John Dyke like as a kid? You were born in Mexico, eh?
I was born in Mexico in 1975, and I was don't remember much of Mexico. I was actually quite young. I do remember a couple of things.
Chihuahua, right?
Yeah, Chihuahua, Mexico. And my birth certificate says Cuauhtemoc, though it wasn't right in town. There was a little village somewhere north that I don't even remember the name of or know the name of. And that's where there was a little hospital or a little, I don't know, some sort of a clinic. And that's where I was born. And remember a couple of things. I remember we had a white horse. I remember riding in a white buggy, enclosed buggy, which apparently wasn't ours. I found out later.
That sounds a little stalt.
Yeah, it was. Well, I think it was maybe. But it was, we had a white horse. And hey, believe it or not, its name was John. And
not Pete.
Not Pete. It was John. And and then I don't remember obviously why we came to Canada or what all happened there, but in 1978, May 19th, we arrived in Toronto.
You were 3 years old?
Yeah.
Oh, so you really wouldn't remember Mexico?
No, not much at all. That's right. I was 3 years and a couple of months when we arrived in Canada, and I remember flying here. I remember me and my brother Frank, we each got a deck of cards going onto the plane, and I remember going to Toronto airport and all of a sudden being inside the building without walking outside, and it was all just like, wow, how did we get here? We hadn't even been outside.
Wow.
So there's a couple of things like that I remember, and then so then we were here in 1978 and lived in Port Burwell area, and that's where I actually went to, I lived in my grandparents' barn here on Lakeshore, and eventually moved right into town in Port Burwell, and that's where I would have went to my first day of school would have been at the Port Burwell school there.
Okay.
In kindergarten.
Your dad got right into like farm work and stuff like a lot of Mennonites?
Well, he did, I guess he did in tobacco, and then for just a farmer down the road here. Okay. Gene Shellison. I don't know if you know him or...
Right out here on Light Line?
Right here. No, sorry, I'm confused. No, Vienna Line.
Vienna Line, okay.
Vienna Line, that way.
Yeah.
They were close to Henry Liz. Right there, down the road from Henry Liz is where it is. And he worked there. Almost right away got into Imperial. Probably in 1979 when he started there, I'm guessing. Something like that anyway. I don't know that for sure.
Seasonal work.
Yeah, seasonal work. And But yeah, then on the farm in the summer, and I don't remember what year it was when my dad did start farming, growing cucumbers himself and stuff, and had a chance to work at the Imperial full time, but he didn't want to. He wanted to be with the boys, and so he opted on a good opportunity over there just so he could be with us.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was.
Do you have a lot of memories of working with your dad then?
Oh yeah.
Because I like, no offense to my dad, but I don't remember ever working with him. A little bit in the backyard a couple times and butchering chickens. So I guess I have to correct that.
Like that, yeah.
But you actually got to work with him.
Oh yeah, we every summer until I got married.
My older brothers picked cucumbers with their dad. I didn't. I played, and then they went to tobacco.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I guess in the beginning, my years would have been too. Sitting there in the middle and bang for them and stuff.
New planting
sometimes and stuff. And but yeah, I did start quite young though. I think I would have been, I'm guessing about 6 years old when I started picking.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure exactly how that would have went because we had more than one machine full of people, and so I'm not sure.
How many are you guys?
We're 9. I have one sister that passed away, but she passed away before any of us were born.
Okay.
She was 8 months old and died of pneumonia, I guess, before my brother Jake.
Oh wow.
And but we were 9 children plus mom and dad that were here. 10.
So you filled up 2 machines.
Yeah, we could have, but we always just did one. Okay. And then. I remember my dad, he would have, me and my brother Neil now, we would have been on the cucumber machine, do one row together for a long time. So what my dad would do is he'd put a couple of 2x4s right across, I'll say these are the benches where you sit, right across, and then put another board up front for me to have my hamper, and then I would be up front, and then my brother would have to pick what I couldn't.
Yeah.
And then like that, we just sort of keep us all busy.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was kind of neat. And yeah, so a lot of memories of work, and we worked hard. We worked on the fields from sun up till sundown, sometimes till 11, 12 at night, where we do cucumbers first, or tobacco first, cucumbers or watermelons and whatever. They often overlap those things, and then we'd do some in the evening. Pete Jortsma, them. We did watermelons for them in the evenings. And load a truck in the evening and pick and stuff.
Lots of work. Ooh, yeah. And lots of beans.
Yeah, eating lots of beans.
I still remember that so clearly. You said that you guys literally like 6 days a week would have beans.
Oh, right? Yeah, if we could.
And if you had to have other foods on Sundays, it was almost disappointing.
It was disappointing. Yeah, we loved Mom's beans. She was a great cook. She did.
But that says to me, now that I'm a parent and I'm feeding my own kids, to me it seems that they were either almost poor or just very, very frugal.
Well, I don't know. It could have been, I don't know, I think a poverty mindset maybe, more than actually being that poor. Like in the very beginning we were quite poor.
When you first come, yeah.
We were very poor. We had very little. We had a lot of, I guess there's a family from the Church of God, and when I went to Haiti with Abe Dyke and that, we went to share our story there with the whole group.
Okay.
And then when I was done sharing, an old gentleman came up to me afterwards and he says...
In Haiti?
No, here
at
Church of God.
Sorry.
After we came back, we shared our story there. And then here, then an old man came to me after we were done sharing, and he goes, you know who I am? And I said, I have no clue. He goes, when you guys were very little and your parents were in Porporo living there, whatever, we helped you out with the because you guys were so poor. I'm like, wow. And I'm just like, wow, thank you so much. I don't know.
You were just a kid.
I was just a kid, and but it was kind of neat to see that I got to meet a guy that did help my parents. So we were quite poor then, but when we were doing the cucumbers and all that,
must have been doing okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There wasn't lack in that way. Back then there was no. My brother and I, we talked about it at one point just not too long ago. There was no investing, trying to make your money do something and stuff like that. So there was never something like that we just lived.
The mindset has really shifted now with the younger generation, right? Where maybe it's part of it's wisdom, but part of it is hoping for things in this world, where they build their security on having a secure foundation for the future in this world, right?
Yeah,
it's not a bad thing to think ahead and plan, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so we just lived on, and mom and dad would treat us for KFC or pizza or something like that. They would never hold back on that stuff like that. So I don't think we lived a poor life growing up.
Just really liked beans.
We liked the beans. We were disappointed when it was something else. We just really liked it, and in some senses, I'm glad, because it made it easy on my mom to not have to try to think of all kinds.
She was
things.
working all day too.
She worked a lot too. She worked often on the fields. She'd be on the fields, and often she'd sometimes she'd stay home and just keep up the home too and stuff. She did a lot of the paperwork in our cucumber. So we had quite a busy summer life. And rarely could we go away in the summer because of that, like vacationing. We rarely did that.
Not even back to Mexico?
Back to Mexico would always be in the spring, like before, just over Easter or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that type of thing. We did that a couple of times, not many times. We didn't go every year type of thing or whatever. We would go, I don't know, 3-4 times. I think the last time I actually was in Mexico myself, in Chihuahua or anything like that, would have been, I probably was 12, 13, I can't remember.
Okay, so you didn't have a lot of memories from there.
No, I don't have a whole lot. I really, really did enjoy it though. I loved Mexico. The play and the cousins, the horseback ride. And the last time I was there, they still rode horse and buggy.
I see.
But
Is
they
that
also had trucks.
When your parents left you in the van sleeping and you woke up?
You remember that story? Yeah. That's exactly what would have happened then. I was one of those that slept easily, and
at a new place in a dark part of the Mexico there, and you wake up and you're all by yourself.
In the sausage darp.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember it very clear at my cousin's house. Yeah.
Anyway, I got you sidetracked.
But yeah, so from there we we grew up here living on Highway 73, where you probably remember where we lived, and that's where I did most of my growing up and working. And
you were kind of in the middle of your family as far as age goes, right?
Just under half, like on the lower side. Yeah, I'm fourth from the back.
Okay.
I'm the youngest. Yeah.
So what were you like then? Were you fighting for a position? Did you try to make something of yourself, or were you kind of a quiet, just kind of stay under the radar kind of person?
Yeah, I guess when I was with my friends, I was maybe a little more noisy, but no, overall I didn't do much. I didn't make much of myself other than just go work and
there's not a whole lot of time for rebellion and talking back to your mom and dad when you're just working, eh?
Yeah, talking back was not a thing. Not a thing in my house. There was a couple of times I think some of my brothers tried, but it didn't go far. No, that was.
And then when the younger ones are watching that, they're like, "I'm not going there."
Oh yeah, no, that's right. There was a couple of times where I probably even tried a little bit, but no, that never worked out well for me. I do think, I think my dad could have probably done better in raising us, or my parents, but at the same time, they had us under pretty good control that way.
They earned your respect.
Yeah, I think so.
Their respect. Yeah.
And and one thing that I did appreciate about my parents is when we were working together, obviously we didn't enjoy it all the time, but they made it fairly fun.
Okay.
It was okay. It wasn't like just hated being with them and hated being around them or whatever. We'd always be around them, that type of thing. And my dad did have, sometimes he'd get upset at things, and I just remember, he had his fingers cut off, and he when he'd swing the hammer, and then he didn't have the proper grip, and it would twist on him, and then he got angry at that, and then that hammer went flying.
Oh boy!
And then as soon as it was landed, he goes, "Okay, guys, go get it." He was like, "Oh, really, Dad?"
You better watch it.
And then I was a rebellious teenager, I think, to a degree. I never got into drinking much. I did a little bit. Never got much into drinking, never got much into smoking. Really badly actually wanted to start smoking. That was something I really wanted to do.
Everybody was doing it.
It was so cool, but the mistake, I guess, blessing in disguise now or whatever, the mistake I made that it wouldn't work out for me was me and my buddies would smoke in a room, a small room, closed door, watching TV all day, and then filling that room with smoke, and got such a headache, I just couldn't do it. And now I'm just so glad it happened that way, because I couldn't see myself. I'd hate to see myself being a smoker. And
I see.
But yeah, never did much of that. I think I didn't share a lot of the things in my heart, deep things in my heart, to people.
I was going to ask, was there like a consciousness of sin and of deep thought? Were you contemplative? I feel like I went through most of my teenage years hardly contemplating about serious things. I had ambitions like, I'm going to be somebody, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, but I didn't really think deeply about the eternality and stuff like that.
No, I didn't do a whole lot of that either. There was a bit of my life, and I think it must have been about 14 years old, 15 years old, or whatever. I remember Frank Bergen, Dave Bergen, and Jake Penner, and those were my buddies then. We had some serious conversations thinking about life and different things, but it was not a long time in my life that I would have thought that. And then later on, when I was a little older, I got into a nasty crowd where I should not have been, but somehow I feel like God spared me from what that nasty crowd was all about.
A lot of them got into darker stuff.
Yeah, they were apparently in darker stuff than when I was even with them.
And you were oblivious to it, or what?
I was totally oblivious. They were into drugs, pornography, they were into drinking and all that, and I never saw it once.
Why did they hide it from you then? How did you escape that?
I don't know. I just didn't know it was happening. And I don't know what happened, where, why, or whatever. When I was with them, I just never saw it. And I don't know. I just wonder sometimes how that even was possible. But
that's awesome.
It was good. I look back now, it's like, wow, some of those guys are still in very dark places. Some of them got born again and are good. Guys like Pete Epp, you know, and I don't know to what degree he would have been in that crowd or whatever, but there was some others that were probably worse than him yet, and type of thing. But yeah, I never caught anything. I never saw marijuana. I never saw a joint or nothing. I just never knew what it looked like.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I never saw any of that stuff either. But then my friends weren't into it either, so I kind of escaped that. But
yeah.
What age were you when your dad became a preacher? Was that pretty monumental to you?
Yeah, I think it was. I was 15, I think. It was 1990 when he became preacher. And when he became preacher, then I feel like there was probably some sort of change in our home and in my life even. But
your dad went through the whole wardrobe change and all that?
Yeah.
Or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, from there on it was all dark blue and gray and black or whatever. And but he never made us change.
Was there crying and lamenting?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was.
It was a pretty serious thing. Eh?
Oh yeah, and even for me that was then, because I was with all the emotions there, and it just kind of put a downer on things, or somehow felt like, I don't know, maybe this is really holy and serious, or I'm not sure what the feeling is exactly. And even my friends were kind of, you know, they were compassionate and they were pretty good. I never, like a lot of people, they talk about, oh, PK, preacher's kid, whatever.
But do you think maybe that's why everybody did all this drug and alcohol and pornography stuff kind of on the peripherals, almost to try to keep it from the preacher's kid?
Well, that's the thing. I was with them before that. Just before that, or during that time. You remember Dave Dyke? Dave, Abe, John. They were. I don't even know how to explain them, but yeah, those guys. They were Frank Bergen's cousins.
Okay.
Or I think they were anyway, something like that. But yeah, anyway, I hung around with them, and those guys are really nice. I like, you know, they seem pretty wild maybe to some degree, but Dave was a good friend of mine, along with Frank Bergen and them, and they were really nice, and they were pretty compassionate or whatever, even during that time when I think they all knew how the preacher thing went in Old Colony type of thing.
Yeah.
And so they were really nice about it, and yeah, I think our lives changed somewhat, but now thinking back, I was even thinking about that today. It's like, was it any different than anybody else's life? Maybe not. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about it now.
Now, like we raise our kids, mine and your kids are both considered preachers' kids now too, but it doesn't feel different to me. Like I was ministering and serving wherever I could, leading Bible studies, and my kids knew that the central theme of our home was the Bible anyway, and so it doesn't feel any different to me. But at the same time, I do see in the kids sometimes they recognize that okay, yeah, we're the pastor's kids, or we're one of the preacher's kids, right?
Yeah,
so there must be some awareness of it.
That's right, and I think there must have been something through my life that way too, but I guess eventually I just got used to it, and this was my life, and I didn't mind.
Yep.
It was not.
So it's not what pushed you into rebellion and into the troubled crowd and stuff.
No, and it probably actually would have probably even, I don't know, I was just going to say maybe the other way.
Almost kept you from some stuff?
Yeah, probably. But
did your older brothers get into a lot of trouble?
No, not a whole lot. Some, yeah. Okay. There was some. Not all of them, but there was a couple of my brothers. They were a little bit of a troublemakers. Okay. But and that would have been the older ones more. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So then you're in your teen years. Your dad's a preacher now, and you're starting to make some trouble. And then you met Susan somewhere in that time, I guess.
Yep. I actually knew my wife from, I think we were 12 years old the first time we saw each other, first time we met. But even like when we always went traveling to Mexico, they still lived in Mexico. I was born in Chihuahua, like I said before. My wife is born in La Hunda, and one of my dad's brothers moved to La Hunda too. So we actually went to La Hunda, and my cousins lived in the same DARP my wife was living in at the time. And she heard about the you updating your Canadian cousins, but I never knew they existed there, so she already knew about us somehow. But then we came, well, when we were living here, they came here. We knew Pete Epp and their family. They also knew Pete Epp and their family or whatever. And so we went to Epps to visit sometimes, and then that's where we met. Okay. And then from there we became friends. Me and Henry have been friends since then. And
I didn't realize you went that far back.
Yeah. And yeah. So then from there, 12, 13, 14 years old, I was always at my wife's family's place there. That's where a lot of people always hung out. They were central.
Even when I was a teenager, a lot of people got together at the Harder's place.
Oh yeah, Harder's place was always busy. And I think one of the reasons why is because they were always so inviting. They always I think the kids have it that way, and I think they got it from the mom dad. Dad always invited everybody, and my father-in-law was always, way back already, he was always the type of guy that would, if somebody came over, he wanted to feed them. He wanted to make sure they had a meal before something. Always offering.
I never knew for sure if I was welcome there or not. I felt intimidated by Mr. Harder. He was a rough kind of guy, and I didn't know where to be or where not to be. I went there a fair bit to visit Abe and Eva and stuff, but anyway. Yeah. So then they moved here, eh?
Yeah, they moved here, and I don't remember them moving here or anything like that. I just got to know them one time when we connected there, and they would have been here for a while then already when I got to know them. Because I think it must have been 1985, 86, 87, somewhere. I can't remember quite. But got to know them there, and it was on December 15 or 16 when I asked my wife out for the first date. I think something like that in... let me see here, 85, 80, 87. Yeah.
Really?
No. I got
the 90s, right?
Yeah, it was the 90s. It was 95, 94, 93, 92. 92 or 93. That's when I asked her. Sorry, I got something mixed up there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. And so I asked her then, and we got married in 1995. We got baptized in 1994. And got married in 1995, and in 1994 we got baptized, and we were a couple that, just like any typical couple, no restraints really or whatever, but we I don't know, something changed in us, we got a refocus of something. And something happened, I think, in Wednesday school or something. I'm not quite sure what happened, but we didn't plan on getting married yet. but we felt like we got to get baptized. We, you know, whether or not I was born again there, this is always a tough part for me to exactly analyze. I always feel like that's probably where I did get born again.
Were you hearing the gospel being taught besides just from Old Colony preachers and teachers?
I think I would have heard something in Wednesday school. Something
that would have been with Mr.
Mr. Enns.
Was it Enns?
Yeah, Mr. Bergen and Mr. Reimer were usually the teachers and stuff.
Oh, okay. Like this is baptism prep class.
That's right.
Not Thursday night school.
That's right. That's exactly, okay. Yeah. So, and then there was Mr.
Friesen and my dad.
Yeah, they were there, and I think, you know, through all that, I probably heard something. But in Wednesday school, I think Mr. Enns must have said something somewhere once. I was drawn to his teaching quite a bit. He was very compassionate, nice teacher or whatever. But anyway, I think I must have heard something there. And that's what I often feel like, because something changed in me, but not to the degree as what I obviously knew later. But anyway, we got baptized, and we didn't do it for getting married. We didn't even plan on getting married yet. And our lifestyle changed a bit, and we just felt different about everything. And
but still would have been very close to Bible study or prayer meeting or things like that.
Yeah, Bible study was starting to be a little bit in the radars for us.
Because there was a lot of commotion at the time, right?
Yeah, because we were starting to see, you know, there was other people that are already leaving the church and stuff, and that caused us to think too and stuff like that. And
other preachers' kids and stuff even.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm not sure how much of the Bible study thing would have been. I can't quite remember exactly all the details of where that all really started. But then we got married in 1995. And when we got married, we hadn't been married long, probably a year. And I was at work. And one time then somebody came over to our house while I was at work. His name was Paul. And shared the gospel with my wife. And so we were like, I was right away like, oh man, who are we letting in the house? And we got to watch out here, because I had no idea what different religions or whatever were doing. And though I would have considered myself more open-minded already than I was, but I was still quite closed. I told my wife, even when she told me about it, I was like, you got to watch out. You know,
there's a lot of dangerous religions out
That's
there.
right. And who's, you know, what are they saying, and how do we know they're true and they're right, and all those things. And then sometime after that, I thought it was like maybe a week or two later, but my wife said it was actually a couple of months later. But sometime after that, on a Saturday, I was not working, but I was working at home in my shop and doing kitchen cabinets and stuff. And my wife was in there, and then all of a sudden that Paul guy came over again.
He knew he had someone on the hook there.
I think he understood something. Like, he was like, I think these people might be open a little bit. And so he came in there and he told me some things. And one thing that I just put in his face right away, I said, a lot of people say they're Christians, but then I see their lifestyle, then something doesn't add up in my mind. You know, that was kind of the question I had, and in my mind, I thought I had a fair question, and I think it is a fair question. Yeah. And then I think it was him that actually told me about 1 John 5:13, I think. And when he left, I don't know if it was right away or sometime after, weeks after, or days after, or what. My wife and I, in our living room in the Elmer house we rented, we opened the Bible to 1 John 5:13, and I was going to see what is it saying there. And that's when I read that passage from verse 9 to 13, and that's where things really started sinking in. Like, what have I been doing all my life? And that's where I felt like I've made God out to be a liar.
If you do not believe the record that God gave of his son, you've made God a liar.
That's right. And that really sank in. And I felt like I had been calling God a liar. That just really spoke to me, that how I would have done that, and what how much I resisted, and a lot of things just came to my mind, like how when people were talking to me about the gospel, I would have just shut them down so many times, because you can't, just like a lot of the typical Mennonite teachings are, you can't know, and you can't how can you dare say
that? Because in that passage in particular, he says that ye may know that ye have eternal life.
That's right. Yeah, and when I got to that verse there, I literally stopped reading. I couldn't read further. I was just like, wow, what does it say right there? Was I pulling things out of context there? I don't know. I probably, but that just really spoke to me. And from there, things started changing. And then we wanted to know what the Word of God said, and we talked to my parents about Bible study and stuff, and they were right upset about it. They did not like what we were doing, and they were very eerie about everything and warned us all the time. And we went to I think must have been a revival meeting or something in Summers Corners gym, and I think it was the EMMC that had rented the place. We went there. We told my parents about it, and they just...
That's a big no.
Oh yeah, that was a big no. And we were reading these things, we were talking to the preachers and my parents and stuff, and they warned us against this, and that was a confusion to us. Because we trusted a lot of things my parents still said, but at the same time we were reading this and learning about this, and we're like, okay, how do we add all this together? And so that was pretty rough. And when that happened, though, it just seemed like the ball was rolling. And
the idea of the gospel, Christ shedding his blood for us, that was already kind of becoming clear to you at that point, and that you could know through his work that you were saved.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I really had an understanding of the Jesus dying on the cross. I think at that point I was still probably thinking, though, that, I don't know, almost that your works keep you saved. I think I had some of that in me somehow. But at the same time, I knew my sins were forgiven, because that was clear to me now that I had eternal life. My sins were forgiven. But I just didn't know, that your future sins and all those things, where they stood. I think just probably confusion, not knowing where to put all that.
Not getting any good solid teaching.
Yep.
Because you still stayed Old Colony for a number of years, right?
Yep, that's right. And that brings me to the point where we were Old Colony for a number of years, and my wife and I, we actually said to each other, I can't remember where it was. I think it was driving down a road somewhere or something in our gray car. I still remember that. Gray car, and we were talking about different things, and we said, let's not leave. No, that wasn't the gray car, that was the blue one, I think. But anyway, let's not leave the Old Colony, let's stay.
Even if there's a need, or not very good, we need to help, or what?
That's right. We really felt like we should stay and help, and we really felt like these were our people. I loved our people. The Old Colony, I just loved the people. Overall, I was really felt close to the church, whatever. Not that I had a bunch of friends, but just overall the system, I really liked it, and I really felt like, this is ministry right here. These are our people. Let's just plug on, keep working, and whatever. And so I almost right away when we were married, I became a Sunday school teacher, and did that for a while. I don't even know how long, and then. That, I don't know what time in my life it was, or what year it would have been. Then we started the youth.
The Thiessen Girls.
The Thiessen Girls with Frank Bamman and Jake Enns. They were all part of that, and that ministry was very good for a number of years.
Not just for the youth, eh?
Oh no, that it helped us a lot. I believe it helped Frank Bamman a lot, and them too. But it was very good. The Friends of Jesus choir came out of that, and I.
Can you imagine thinking back to that time now and all the fruit that has actually come out of that? Like Frank Bamman's been in some type of ministry since way back. Jake Enns is one of the elders at Port Burwell. You're in ministry, and so many of the young people that were saved there, born again through the Thiessen Girls ministry, or through you or Frank, and there's lots and lots of people that were affected by that.
I think so. I've heard Willie Penner's. I don't know how close it's related to that, but he sometimes talked about that, and I've heard Benny Jansen and them. There was a lot of people that were there. I think we were up to 80 people sometimes, and we had the program sometimes in the Vienna Hall where we do the music programs and stuff like that. I don't know. Somehow I think music just does something to people, and the music ministry was good. So that was very good. And I became school board member.
For the Old Colony Private School.
Yeah, for the Old Colony Private School. I forget what year that would have been, but yeah, I was there 1 year. That was actually a year before Redicops stepped down.
Yeah.
Then, I became then we visited Redicops already. We went there.
You didn't leave right away when Redicops left?
Well, I was part of that, in my heart, I wasn't gone yet. I was there pretty much right from the beginning. I was there the first Sunday, actually, yeah. But I don't know if...
Must have felt a little bit like betraying your dad and...
Yeah, betraying the whole system.
Because there was a lot of controversy between the Old Colony preachers at the time.
Yeah.
Mr. Enns was now gone, and they were electing a new Altista, and a lot of controversy there, and then Redicops stepped out, and so then to follow him would have felt like a slap in your dad's face, probably, right?
Yeah, my dad really took that personally, I think, and feeling like, are we just teaching wrong? And later years, I reassured him, it's like nothing personal, absolutely not. And I didn't try to be rebellious. That was never my intention to do anything like that. So we had a pretty rough go there for a while with them, and trying to understand each other and stuff. And so when they did kick me off the board, so I was only there. I was supposed to be 3 years, but I was only 1. And then we just full-fledged went to Redicops, and that's where we cut ties and stuff. And went to Redicops till 2006, I think it was. 2006, January 29 was the last day.
When the Redicop thing kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
Well, there was a good 3 years, I think, probably, because I know Hallie was born, and then we broke off from Old Colony, and the Redicop thing started up. There was a lot of controversy in the Old Colony church at the time, and then this whole thing started up. Me and my family almost all left, and our intent was just basically, why not teach some English? And that's what we had heard. Redicop was going to teach some in English. So let's do something where at least we can understand what the Bible says. Yeah. I still had not really a lot of interest in actual scriptural truth, but we were trying to avoid Sundays already. Depending on which preacher was preaching, we just wouldn't even go to Old Colony. And then when this happened, Mr. Redicop had preached our wedding just a year before, and so it was easy for me. And then my parents went, and my brothers went, and it was like a really interesting, exciting time. But that's when I really started hearing from you and from your brother-in-law Henry Harder, and messages started getting passed around, and the charity messages, CDs started getting passed. And
there was the Jeremy Hoare one that was pretty popular then. Salvation Crystal Clear, I think the one message was called, or whatever.
The Worth of a Soul and Salvation Crystal Clear. Those were the two that got me.
Yeah. So those were quite some teachings for us then. Really, really beneficial, I think, for a lot of people at the time. And and then when we left the Old Colony, and just backing up, there was something. My wife and I were just chatting about this. There was something that, you remember when we were driving truck, and then sometimes I wouldn't have a helper, then I'd take either Sarah or my wife along and on the overnight runs and stuff. And anyway, my wife and I were driving truck, and I believe we were going from Elkhart, Indiana to Plainwell, Michigan on the 131 North. I don't know if you remember that highway.
I don't remember the numbers as much, but I remember those towns.
We were driving, and I just said to my wife, are you ready for something? I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like something's going to happen, but are you ready in case God has something for us? And I had no clue what it would be. She thought maybe we were still at the Old Colony, but I think we later concluded it must have been a Redicops where this happened. And I don't know why I said that. It just all of a sudden something came to me, and I was like, I think God has something in store for us. And I don't
Almost
know
like he's forewarning you a little bit.
Yeah, and so and I just said to her, "Are you ready for this? Whatever it is, I don't know." And we just kind of like, whatever God wants is what we want. And so I feel like maybe I had a calling for ministry at that time already somehow, but not sure what to call it or what it was. But anyway, and so we. then at the Redicops church there was the deacon election. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep. I was part of that still.
Yep. And so we had that, and then we had the nominees, and I was one of the nominees.
So was I.
And so were you, and there was others. And I wanted to pull my name out, and then Isaac Dyke, I remember him saying, "Why would you pull your name out?" And all of a sudden I thought, no, I don't need to. I don't need to pull my name out. I'm not going to be picked anyway. I was 100%.
You had a calling to ministry, but you knew that was not it somehow.
Yeah, and I was just so confident in it, and I was like, no, that's...
Well, I remember already at Redicops, I looked up to you a lot because I worked with you, and I knew you knew the scriptures well. And so then you were still trying to come to terms with the idea of teaching and stuff. But you did teach some of the Sunday school there.
Yeah,
you were teaching on spiritual gifts and all that. And I remember being more edified and blessed by that a lot of times than by the main services, right? So we all kind of suspected already that you would be one of those that would lead out.
Yeah, probably, yeah, because I was already taking some roles like that, yep. And so, yeah, I was very confident. And then the reason I remember the day so clear was my daughter's birthday when we left Redicop, right on her birthday. We just sang happy birthday to her in the church.
And there was a big blow up.
And the big blow up after. Oh man.
Oh man.
Such a sad day after. It was so gloomy.
There's a lot of turmoil, right? Because there was so much excitement and potential from the Redicop movement. Even to this day, there's been a lot of fruit from that as well.
Absolutely.
But there was also a lot of like, what do we do now? Who are we? Are we Old Colony still? Are we just English Old Colony? Like, what is happening here? Right?
Yeah.
But then people started getting born again. Yeah. Left, right, and center, right?
That's
people
right.
were hearing the gospel.
We had the baptism there. You remember that when I think Joe
got baptized there. Henry and Liz and a bunch of others.
Yeah, and there was a bunch of others, and then I actually did the baptism classes there even.
Help teaching them?
Yep, yeah, and Mr. Redicop, I think, couldn't make one or two or something. He asked if I would just help teach there, and so I did, and then I remember that's that whole baptism thing was pretty exciting evening, and some people got born again through that, which I've heard later. So that was very exciting for us and stuff. And yeah, so then from there, we actually on January 29th, 2006, on her Sarah's 10th birthday is when that went to nothing, or to nothing, I should say. That's when that fell apart.
The three deacons that were nominated and voted in, along with a big group of 7 or 8 or 10 families.
We were 11 families.
11 families left.
Yep, that's right. And so we left. I don't know what happened to all the many, but it got very small eventually.
It dispersed quite a bit.
Yeah, and there was like 4 or 5 families, I think. I can't remember. That stayed there with Mr. Redicop for quite a while.
My parents were there for quite a while, yeah.
And so we, that very day yet, on that Sunday, I think it was Henry Penner that invited us, anybody that wanted to come to their house, and then we would just have some singing and stuff in the afternoon. And so a bunch of people went, and we invited Mr. Redicop and everything, and but of course he was pretty heartbroken, which I totally get. And so they didn't come, and so we did that, and then we decided that we would rent the hall in Brownsville to get together to see what we wanted to do from there. And so the next Sunday we went there, and we wanted to see what would happen, where we wanted to go to church from here and things like that. And so I'm pretty sure we were 11 families, and we went there, and nobody knew where they wanted to go except Henry and Anna Penner. They already had decided they would go to Purple, and everybody blessed them, because that's kind of the idea that we had. See where you wanted to go, just go wherever you felt led to go. And but the rest, the 10 families, we just didn't know where we wanted to go. So we figured, well, then we'll have to do this again and see. And then the next Sunday came around, and still nobody knew. Nobody went anywhere. And we did that for a while, and soon we're just like, nobody talked about it much anymore. It was kind of thing, whatever.
We knew we were meeting Sunday morning at Brownsville.
Yeah, and we had no intention of starting a church. We had no intentions of anything. And then I don't know how long later, months later maybe even a year, I can't remember, Jake Dredger coming over. I can't remember when that was, but he actually said to us, "Why are you guys looking for a church? Well, like, you are a brotherhood." And that's when the first time it clued in my mind anyway, this is probably something that God is calling us or directing us. And
well, we had left the Redicops church before that, and we went over to Vienna. So I got introduced to all these guys, Jake Driedger and them. And the brothers' meetings were very lively, very exciting meetings to be a part of. Everybody was there passionately wanting to know, what are we doing as a church? And so then we came there, and I was just young and energetic and zealous and stuff. And I was still very much connected with a lot of you guys. So as soon as you guys started there, I started mentioning at brothers' meetings, like, look at what they were doing here. Look what's happened here. And like, this is a whole new group that started. And I remember like pretty much every month, Lisa and I would come over and visit you guys. So it was like pretty much every month.
That's right.
That we would be there too, and then I'm taking information back to the church at Vienna and letting them know what you guys are all up to. And and so then Jake came over there too, and I remember Jake preaching there, and Jake Simons came to preach, and Dave Peters came.
Dave Peters, John Enns. I'm not sure if John Enns did. He might have.
Henry Clausen
maybe. And then even for a while, John Enns would teach us singing at Toby Margot's basement. And so we had singing classes once a month or once a week. I can't remember what it was, but something like that. And
such a moldable new group where we didn't nobody knew what they were going to do yet. Exactly. Almost went the Vienna church way, the charity style, right? And then almost
we
Port
just
Burwell like
we were just really trying to find our way. And while looking at the young families now with the little children, that's what we were. Everybody just had babies.
Really, no elders.
Nope, there was no elders. Nope, the eldest people weren't even elders. And and so we did that for a while, and then one of the things at Redicops was getting a building, and that was really something that we couldn't agree on. And so we were so tired of a building, of talking about building, so we were just very happy to
we'll just keep renting.
I think we rented it for $50 a whole Sunday. And so we were just like, that's a no-brainer. That worked so well. And then the way I remember it, we were there, had our service one Sunday, and afterwards we very often we would just stay there all day,
have potluck and
just hang out.
Some of the songs that were sung, like there was a real excitement around the idea of just being God's.
Yep, right? That's right. Oh yeah, we did a lot of things.
To Him.
We played games. We would play musical chairs as the whole church. Everybody's included, and so we had a lot of fun, and really enjoyed each other's company there, and just always trying to learn and different things. But one day, got a knock on the door, and we were like, "What? That's weird." Who knocks at the hall? Who knocks on the door at the hall? But anyway, Abe Ham, I believe when it was, he went and checked who it was, and it was the Baptist church. And the Baptist church leaders of some sort. I don't know if John Twynham or John Burks would have been one of them. But they came and they asked him if we would be interested in getting their building. Abe Ham comes and talks to us all, and we're like, no, tell him just never mind.
Not interested.
Not interested. We were so sick and tired of buildings and whatever. The talk told him not interested, and then it's like, okay. And then I think 3 months or so, I if I remember correct, they came back and did it again. We told them again no, and then all of a sudden I think they got in contact with Pete Penner, and by this time I think Abe and Aggie were in Mexico as missionaries already.
Okay, before you went to Springfield.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the way it went. Don't quote me on that, but the reason I think that is because all of a sudden it switched to Pete Penner doing it from Abe, and yes, it was, because then they just called and they said, can we have a meeting with you guys? That's all we want to do is just talk and about the building and all that. And we thought, well, you know what, maybe we shouldn't fight against it like this. And then we finally went, and then we were actually in the basement of our building there with all the Baptist people. They had a nice big table set up there, and all their people, a lot of their people, and all of us men, pretty much all of us men were there. And we didn't know what we wanted to do. We didn't want to make a mortgage. We didn't want to do any of that. We just whatever. And we before we went, we actually said to each other, what are we going to tell them? Like, we don't even know what to say. We're like, where's this going to go? What? All we knew is we didn't want a mortgage. And so I think at this point
But you had already kind of dealt with the idea that you were a church.
Yes.
We're the church at Brownsville.
That's right.
That's where we are.
Yeah, at this point it would have been. And I think we had collected somewhere $10,000 already or something. Just collecting, not knowing for what, but it was, this was part of the reason with Abe and Aggie being gone, so we want to make sure that was all taken care of. And we told them we got like $10,000 in the bank, or it collected, and we're not about to get a mortgage. We got Abe and Aggie in Mexico. They come first. That's all we know. And they just said, well, we really like that answer. We really like what you said. Okay.
We're not trying to get your attention here or your affection, right?
Yep. So we're like, whatever. And so we wanted to leave it at that, and we just thought that was nothing then. And all of a sudden John Burks calls Pete Penner up again and says, what if I hold a mortgage for you and you guys pay only as you can? Because they didn't want the Abe and Aggie obviously to be stuck, and also they didn't want to sell the building to the lumberyard. The lumberyard really wanted the church building. They wanted to break it down and use it for lumberyard or whatever. And they said we would sell it. They would sell it to them only if they couldn't find a church group. And so they wanted to give us first shot. And so anyway, then John Burks held a mortgage for us at a very low interest, and we could take as much time as we needed. And so we did pay it off, I think, in 3 years. I can't remember. It was very quick. And
they gave it to you for a good price.
$90,000, I think it was. So we really felt like that was a godsend. And this was in the beginning of 2008, I believe. I think that's the way it went. We had just sold our house trailer, and we were on the farmyard about a week or two. I forget which one was first. We were in the building and then we went there, or was it vice versa? But anyway, we rented the house on our way to Alberta. We made our final deal. We hadn't even seen the house, but we rented the farmhouse. And anyway, then that's when we got the building. And when we came back, is one of the first Sundays we were back is when we had our first service in the building, which was very exciting. Very empty. It just felt so big. But anyway, we did that, and then that same year or at least in 2008. I think it was 2008 when we got the building. That's when I got ordained as elder in Springfield, and from there, the church started growing. We had some people that came in and tried to take over and wanted to really push their agenda or their doctrine in like 3 different groups that really wanted to
sway the direction.
Yeah. And some of them they even wanted to be the teachers there and stuff, and we're like, whoa, nope, this is not going to happen, not so quick.
Where Vienna, I think, from what I can gather, I have my criticisms of some of their stuff, but they came in and just said, we'll preach here if you need us to sometimes, but you guys get going. That's right.
They were very gracious, very kind, and very nice to us. They never pushed. In right away you felt open to let them in and do some teaching and stuff. But these other guys, they were really, off something totally different than what we were learning. And so you have to get baptized to be saved, or you don't get baptized at all. Christians shouldn't get baptized, or it's like extremes. And then we had the Church of God come in.
What do you think kind of kept you kind of focused? I know through the years you've become very gospel-centered. Christ has become the central theme of things, and I think probably we've had a lot of the same influences that way. I remember listening to some of Michael Pearl's stuff together in the truck even, and then the whole paradigm shift of that's what the gospel's about. We understood it, but it was almost like it wasn't really emphasized. It wasn't a really major theme, right? So what was it that somehow kept you from going astray to those extremes?
Well, I think I'm not like a very avid reader, but yet there were certain things that I looked into the Bible and I just really no, this is what I believe. One of the things I've always kind of done is whenever I read something or heard something, if it didn't resonate with the Bible what I was reading in there, I didn't use it. I didn't take it in. So if there was a guy that would teach that you have to be baptized to be saved, if I couldn't make that resonate in the Bible in my own mind, whether it was true or not, I didn't know or wouldn't know. I wouldn't use it. That I didn't sway in it then. That just didn't go over well with me because I had to be convinced in my own mind. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of those things did keep me. Like, I think, I sometimes think, as young as I was and inexperienced in leadership and all these things that I was, somehow God preserved us in many ways. And we have to, we really needed to learn. My wife and I sometimes talked about it. So like, we're a group of people without a father, you're just like children trying to find their own way.
I remember even, we had prayer meetings at Abe Ham's place or at Abe and Lisa Dyke's place, and there was like, we need elders, Lord. We need someone with gray hair to come in and help us and lead us, and we're too young to really function this way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it would have been beneficial if there would have been some elder gentleman that would have been able to guide and direct. And not that God can't use young people. I think very often that does happen, but it would have been nice probably, but maybe there would have been some things that we would have not fought for so much then.
Well, I mean, 12 years later or so, then God had started answering the prayers as your hair is turning gray.
Yeah, it should. Yeah.
He sent us the elders.
Yeah, slowly but surely. But yeah.
But I remember those first days too. Like there was a lot of even when you were ordained, there was still like this. I remember Ray Wanger called it the round robin style of preaching and teaching. Right? You would preach Sunday, and then Abe Ham would, and then Abe Dyke would, and then Abe Penner would try, and Pete Penner. Mm-hmm. My brother Joe did some preaching. Henry started a little bit. Maybe Henry didn't even at that time. I forget.
Not so much, but
there was like 5, 6, 7 guys that were kind of taking turns. That's when we just started coming, and Ray Wanger came and spoke there for a weekend or a week. And he said, I don't know how you guys do your thing here, but I would really discourage the whole round robin thing. Like if you've got a couple guys that are gifted at teaching, get them doing it. Like not everyone is gifted this way. Yeah. So we really just didn't know what we were doing. Right?
Yeah. And I think, I still think it was okay that we did that.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I think it was is...
It brought out gifts.
It brought out the gifts, and it brought out, it gave other people, I remember Abe Penner just saying, hey, the preaching's not for me. And we really saw his gift shine all of a sudden in music and singing and stuff. Like, why would we try to force him to do this when God's gifted him here? Mm-hmm. And he's been such a blessing where doing what he's been doing. And so I think that's been very, very beneficial for us to have that. I wouldn't mind if some of the brothers would share maybe a little more, but overall, I think it's good. A lot of the gifts are being brought out and different things. So, yeah, and then I think it was 2000. I can't even remember now when you guys were ordained. You and Henry 15,
something like that.
I think it was.
Is it 7 years already?
To me, it seems like it must be 2015, or was it 2017? I think it was 15. We got dates, or Abe and Lisa for sure. They got the dates. Mm-hmm. They got dates for everything.
We were at the church for about 6 years, I think. Mm-hmm. Before.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and well, with my dad in that whole thing, my parents both, we really had just backing up. We were saying there was kind of problems in the family because of leaving the church, but since then, we've had some really sweet fellowship with my parents and been able to really connect better than ever before, I think, where they seem like they got the gospel. And my mom, when she passed away, I just talking to her about the gospel, and she really seemed to understand, and she seemed to be ready to go.
Make mention of that time when she mentioned the whole greenhouse idea.
Okay,
like transplants and stuff.
Yeah. So what she did, she
started to see what was going on with the old colony system.
Yeah, she saw a lot of people leave the old colony church, and my mom, I in one sense, I feel like she had a lot of insight on a lot of things, just by saying things, like little things that she would say, and she didn't make a big broadcast, but yeah, one of the things that she did say is she felt like if the people from Mexico were to come here and just go to a different church other than Old Colony, that would just be a shocker to them. That would be too much. She felt like the Old Colony was the greenhouse where they would be planted here, and then from here they'd move on to somebody else, and then all the people from Mexico that moved this way, they would be planted in the Old Colony, and from here eventually be transplanted into a different church. And
it almost sounds like she was kind of giving credit to it, that it was maybe okay, and that it was kind of a good thing.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, she I think she just saw, you know what, people that are leaving the Old Colony aren't bad. And for those people over there to hear, obviously she knew how Mexico was and how a lot of
come to Elmer Old Colony was actually almost like coming to a liberal church.
Exactly. So it was already a huge step.
Yeah.
And then for them to come to a church like ours all of a sudden, that would just not fly. And I wouldn't blame anybody. Like I couldn't see myself doing that from Mexico directly to a church like ours here now. I could easily see that be way too much. Mm-hmm. And you know, close your heart's door to anything that was being said and all those things. And a lot of people's hearts were softened by the Old Colony.
Yeah. And then through the Old Colony school, a lot of people got saved there with the teaching and the teachers. Mm-hmm. My wife was a teacher with your wife, and I remember hearing a lot of stories then that people were coming to understand the gospel at the school. Yeah. And so they were like a breeding ground. They were transplanting people into other churches. Yeah. And so now we're one of the churches. You know, there was 7 or 10 families for a long time, and then people trickled in, trickled out, trickled in, trickled out, and then all of a sudden we had 10 or 12 or 15 families. And now I think we're upwards of mid-30s sometimes.
Yeah, so mid-30s. It could be mid-30s, and
we don't do an actual count of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a little bit of a list of who's in, and just trying to, I need to update it again.
Some people have moved to Mexico.
Yeah, some people have left and things like that. And I think what, we had people poking their heads in and looking a little bit, but weren't interested. And I don't blame anybody, because we were not established at all. Like, you know, they want to raise a family in a good church or whatever. But, you know, here's this church that looks like they're not even... you got it all together yet.
Yeah.
And so I don't blame anybody. And you know, I look back now, I never thought of it this way, but you know, we were kind of pioneering in the gospel, and like finding our way, like other groups have done. And I think it was almost, I don't know, I want to say 5 years, 7 years where it really started growing. Yeah. Something like that. I can't remember quite, but yeah. And then it started growing, and we had a lot of good times, a lot of very hard times, and I think that's what brought us close.
Well, what kind of drew us, obviously we knew you from when we left the Redicops church, and then we were at Vienna for about 3 years, and then we came back to Springfield after you guys moved there. And we could see that there almost everybody was homeschooled families. Not that it was like a requirement, but people were very, very interested in the fruit of their offspring, right? They wanted their children to walk with God. They really wanted to teach their own kids. And then we saw that husbands were loving their wives, and wives were honoring and submitting to their husbands. And even now I look around at most of those original families, and I see good relationships. I see solid families. And, you know, maybe not always the most zealous bunch out there, you know, preaching on the gospel and that kind of stuff like some churches do, but stable. Steady, you know. I look around still, and I love that our family is integrated with this group. You know, we're closer to some than we are to others. At the same time, I've often said this, even from the pulpit. There's some people in the church congregation that I almost have no personal interactions with, but knowing that they're there each Sunday, that they're raising their family in a particular way. Not perfectly, but they're trying, they're struggling through, they're hearing the gospel, they're teaching their kids, they're spending time with their wives. I see them going out on dates, I see them going on vacations together, just the husband and wife, or you know, just very family oriented, very gospel centered. And I think through the years we've gotten a lot better at teaching that book, you know, teaching books of the Bible verse by verse, that kind of thing. You've done many books, John. Henry's done several books. I've done a bunch. Now we're doing the book of Acts together. Almost finished that
or 2 more chapters.
So I love it. I mean, you know, are we a good church? Are we a perfect church? By no means. Oh, no. But it's very exciting to be a part of. And I think that's what's kind of attracting people now is there's a liveliness about it, where we're, not that we've got it figured out, but we have kind of our feet set now, it feels like, a little bit.
That's right. Where people feel like, okay, you know, this is an establishment where I would want to raise my family too. Yeah. And, I always just feel like we just got to stay on the gospel and stay on the book, and I think God will honor that, obviously, because it's His word. And
yeah, if we were primarily concerned about getting more numbers, we could do different things.
mm-hmm.
But instead, we've kept almost the whole emphasis on singing good old hymns and some new gospel-centered hymns.
That's right.
And preaching the Bible,
mm-hmm.
and then gathering around that. And there's an hour or so of chatting afterwards, and lots of get-togethers in between, and
mm-hmm.
so
yeah,
it's a real joy to be a part of.
Yeah, amen. Exactly.
But now our building's often pretty much full.
That's right. Yeah, which is almost scary to see what's or exciting to
mm-hmm.
see what God wants next.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We've in the last couple years faced a couple things that we've never had to for the first 10 or more years of a church. We had our first funeral
mm-hmm.
a couple years ago. And now just a couple weeks ago there was a funeral of a stillborn baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just learning things that we've never had to deal with. We've done many weddings now. Yeah. And that's been a real pleasure to be a part of too, and
mm-hmm.
pointing them constantly back to Christ. And
amen. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a whole nother. You think about the funerals and all that. It's the funerals and weddings both really point to the gospel. In Christ in the church is the wedding. Funerals just where it seems like you're ushered into that. Ushered into the other side where you're going to meet the Lord, and so that's exciting in that sense. And
what gives you the most joy or excitement or hope in regards to church ministry?
Well, I do what I think what gives me the most joy, other than the salvation of my own soul, would be that I see when people are excited also about actually being saved and knowing the Lord, and for me, I really enjoy sharing the gospel with somebody that doesn't know. When they come and when I see a hunger, mm-hmm. that's quite exciting for me. I really enjoy to see somebody get the gospel. And
that day when Corny and Nancy came visiting, and there's this brand new young couple, and you get to sit down with them. And
that was very exciting. It was very exciting. I've seen a few of those now, and that's always very exciting for me for people to see that, just simply believe the gospel, and you can see that transform their life, mm-hmm. just the way they think, the way they go about everything. Finally, from struggling to resting, if you will, and
absolutely,
that's one of my favorites. I think in one sense, I think that's one of the reasons I like doing baptism classes. Is where you get to share the gospel once again and again. Yeah,
and without those new young people coming in, the church would start to feel dry and dead pretty quickly. But to get that new life, now one of the things that's been on my mind a lot with that topic is that we sometimes see young people come in. I think about the youth that came through the church probably 7 or 8 years ago. Billy, Tony, and Benji, and a bunch of those guys where they were hungry for truth.
That's right.
And now a lot of times we see our own kids who were raised in a very stable environment. They didn't go off getting into drugs and alcohol and smoking and whatever else. They were taught the gospel from young on. It almost seems like it's taking a while for them to really catch on to the gospel, or that it really doesn't seem to matter as much to them.
That's right. It doesn't.
Do you have any theories on that?
Well, I think it's just
they're good kids.
That's right. They're good. If for the most part, I think a lot of pretty much everyone. I can't think of anybody that wouldn't be, but they are good kids. I think when Jesus said that he who is forgiven much loves much, I think that probably is an effect here, where they haven't done those bad things that I have growing up.
There's no real strong conversion, right?
That's right.
Where our whole mindset had to shift completely when we got saved.
That's right. And for them, this is normal. Even just our church setting, when we go to the old colony for a wedding, or to a Rhinelander, or anywhere that is quite different than ours, we go there. They feel like, whoa, this is so different. It's like, no, this isn't different.
This is how we grew up.
This is how we grew up. Feels so. It could feel at home, if you will, but they don't know that. You know, the moment you step out into a different church and do it the way we do it now, and they're just raised in it, they don't know different. For them, this is going to be all the memories, and just like the old colony was for us.
Sometimes I've wondered, like a kid that maybe goes to public school and is raised in drugs or alcohol, or you're not raised in it, but gets into it. They hear or they feel the realities of life at a very young age. Mm-hmm. They maybe see some of their friends die from some crazy accident or something, or they come to the end of themselves at a younger age almost. I'm wondering, and I don't know yet because we're still a pretty young church, maybe when our kids, like your oldest daughter's now married and living in Florida, maybe when the stresses and the difficulties of life come upon them, mm-hmm. maybe then they'll kind of be like, I am so glad I was taught the gospel, that it's second nature to me, that it's, maybe then there'll be more of a stoking, a passion for that truth, right?
Right.
Where like some of these young guys that are now getting saved, a couple of the young guys that come from up in Milverton, they're hearing the gospel for the first time a couple of years ago, and they're just digging into the Bible. Mm-hmm, like they'll hear sermons and listen all day long, and they can't get enough. And they're just catching up to what our kids already know.
Yeah, exactly.
So when life hits, maybe then, the Spirit of God that hopefully is living in them will really start to kind of come through.
That's right. And maybe we're almost thinking, like we had to plow our way through this, and we, like you said, we can't come from the other side, living a life of carelessness in regards to the gospel. Like, I didn't give it much regard, and all of a sudden realizing, wait a minute, I'm living in sin. My heart's wicked from the inside, and realizing all of a sudden that I got to pay or do this, and then all of a sudden you get this opposition, then it really starts to feel real. Like you all of a sudden you got this push that you're going against, and it seems like you had something to fight for, and where our children are relaxed. They're not fighting for anything. They're not.
That's true.
They're quite relaxed. I think of the nation does the same thing. They fought for freedom way back. We're so relaxed.
In a sense, we did, right?
Yeah.
We fought for freedom from what felt like oppression.
Exactly.
Now I look back with fondness on some of those traditions, and I realize how valuable some of them were.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But when it was grabbing my heart, it felt like a vain thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then it just really directs us, and if we would have obeyed our parents a little more, we probably could have avoided even some more things than what we were already sheltered from. But our children, like you said before, we already discuss a lot of gospel with them, and so they kind of got a direction, hopefully a good direction in our own homes and stuff. And then they feel like, well, what have I done wrong? Mm-hmm. I'm not that bad. I'm listening to Mom, Dad. I'm trying.
And even if I am a little bit bad, I know we belong to a church that preaches truth.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
We're pretty safe.
Yeah.
So, was there anything else? You had a couple notes there. Was there anything else major that you wanted to point out? Got one more question if you don't have anything else.
Well, I think we probably covered this pretty good.
Okay. I know there's many other stories we could talk about and issues that happened in your life. You lost 2 little babies. That was a pretty serious situation. But
maybe just a little bit on that. Right after Sarah, we had Jennifer. Almost 2 years after Sarah, Sarah was born in 96. Jennifer was born in 98, and Matthew in 99. And they passed away, and we couldn't understand why God would allow that, but yet that had a big effect on where we were going to go from there. It all happened during the time when we were really searching. Mm-hmm. It was I think a deep soul searching time for us, not knowing where we were going to go, what we were going to do. It was very, very a difficult time in not just losing the babies, but in life to see what God would want of us. And so
financial struggles and health struggles.
We had health struggles, financial struggles. They were not too bad at them. We had this crazy notion my wife would work and we would both work, and we brought Sarah away to the babysitter, and we were doing okay. and we had some money saved up and everything, but that all went down the drain very quickly when the babies were there. Just we used everything up because we were in the hospital a couple of months and stuff like that, and yeah, anyway, and we weren't very frugal, not knowing anything about saving money, so we just did what we knew how and stuff. But yeah, I think God was really teaching us something. It really drew us, or made us sit back and rethink life a lot. Yeah.
It's amazing that you would look back to children born with deformities and dying very quickly, that could be a great blessing to your life.
Yeah.
Like you don't look at that time and think, oh, that was awesome.
Mm-mm.
But such a dramatic shift in your life and the ideas of mortality and death and all that can really shift your thinking.
Oh yeah. And then once that was all done, then obviously we were with the doctors so much and geneticists and all that. We had so much meetings and different things. Well, a few meetings with a geneticist anyway, but a lot of doctors. My wife was at the doctor so much, and she got so tired, and she was in the hospital for a while herself and all that. But with all that, we were challenged with cutting off, get tubes tied maybe or something.
Don't ever have kids again.
Don't ever have kids again.
This is going to keep happening.
Yeah, and so that was a big struggle for us, and they, even when our second one was, we were my wife was pregnant with the second one, they hinted towards us to just abort the baby, and that was just like, whoa, and these things, knowing what we just went through, and there was a lot of struggles. Not that we were thinking, yeah, we got to do it, but yeah, it was hard when they said that.
You knew before that the
second one was, yeah, we already knew there was something wrong there, and yeah, so, and then they said we should just never have babies anymore, and we didn't know what to do with that. We struggled with decision making on that, and we just didn't feel right about it, and then, well, nothing happened ever as for a long time. So we just thought, well, we'll have one child, and that's
from 96 to 03, right?
03, yeah, 03, and then Zachary came along and just
perfectly healthy,
and we were so blessed to have another baby. We're like, wow, so this, God didn't close the womb. It was good. And so then we had 3 more after that yet, and just, yeah, they've all been good since then.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's been a big blessing.
So to wrap it up, what's the future hold? Are you going to be elder at the church at Springfield till you're 80, and then Christ will return and call you up before you die, or what?
Yeah, before I die. Yeah. That's always the plan. My plan.
No, it's hard to make those predictions, right? You don't know for sure. But as far as you can see right now.
Well, I don't know. I never really tried to plan that even. I don't know if I could see myself not doing any ministry like that anymore. So I couldn't really predict what would happen in the future. Right now, I just feel like I got to teach the Bible, and that's it. I don't know. I really don't plan ahead, I guess. I didn't plan to be a minister. I didn't plan to start a church.
Exactly. For a while it was John Dyke's church, right? Well,
probably. I'm not sure what people were saying. I never really heard myself, so I never heard if that was the case or whatever, but I just really didn't know. Maybe somebody would accuse me of not having visions, but a vision. But I really feel like if I start planning, God's going to take it a different direction maybe than what I think. Then I feel like, I don't know,
So just do faithfully what you can right here and now.
Yeah. That's really what I do. Like, I don't see myself doing anything else really. Then, like, I sometimes think, what would it be like if I didn't teach? And then I only can go so far in my mind. That's like, really? How? I don't know.
What else would you do?
Yeah. But
and there's that whole idea. Paul talks about the household of Stephanus, I think, had addicted themselves to the ministry. Mm-hmm. When you start seeing lives turned around and you see the gospel connect with people, it's like, I can't not do that.
Right.
I want people to know this truth.
Yeah, that's right. If say it would ever be that I wouldn't be preaching and teaching, I don't think I could see myself not doing anything. Like, you know, I think back of the days when I was driving truck. I was out on the road by myself and whatever. All of a sudden, I had the urge to say something. I had to talk to somebody. And then there he was or whatever, and then I'd start sharing. Next time it was, you know, at a factory or something.
One of your truck driver helpers.
Yeah, or yeah, back those days in the truck driver helpers, you know, chatting there.
But you were thinking later, even when you were driving longer distances.
Yeah, even now when I own my own truck, I felt like, you know, somewhere something. And even now at this work, I talking to this Muslim guy, Amit. I really pray that he's going to get saved. I gave him a Bible the other day, and hopefully he gets it one day. I really hope and pray. I think he's a man that's really searching for answers right now, because he doesn't like his religion, he says, and he doesn't know where to go. He thinks all religions are the same, and so I really hope he does.
Well, any last words for men out there listening? Fathers, husbands, preachers, teachers, evangelists? Well,
maybe I should listen to them instead of them listening to me, but I think to stay encouraged, to preach the word, and to encourage one another, to like Paul does in Thessalonians, comfort one another with words of, as you see the day approaching, I guess, and we just really need to try to be faithful in that. And you know, sometimes, like you, I think, mentioned in one message about easy believism. It is easy believism, but at the same time, you know, fight for your faith, man. It's worth it. And it's the devil and the world, they want to turn us around. They want to numb our faith or kill our faith.
Yeah.
But
it's becoming a very open attack in our culture at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah.
Amen. Well, if you guys want to hear more or learn something about what he talked about, I'm sure you can look John up. I can get you his number if you need it. So, but yeah, he's had way more influence and effect than he realizes on me and on many, many others. I know that for sure.
Okay.
He's humble by nature.
I don't know, man. I'm so humble, I'm proud, probably, right?
Amen.
Amen.
Right. Appreciate you sharing with us.
Yeah.